What goes on in the world, what we see in the headlines, is very often reflected in the flag. And flags, by their very nature, are emotion-charged emblems. We see flags and they have a great impact on us as individuals. For example, there is from time to time a controversy about the use of the Confederate flag. It's not just a simple flag, but there are a number of flags used by the Confederacy and Confederate troops during the Civil War. And what we most often consider to be the Confederate flag wasn't even one of the flags that was used during that conflict. Rather, with the Confederate States of America, as they came into existence and the states seceded from the Union, they selected a national flag for the Confederacy. And that's the flag that is named or referred to as the Stars and Bars. And you'll notice it's very much the American flag. But because of the division of the Confederate States, they needed emblems of their own. And this was the first flag they came up with. But as the war continued, especially on the battlefield, this flag presented problems because it was sometimes hard to distinguish from the Stars and Stripes, especially if it was hanging limp against a pole, sometimes very hard to distinguish. So because of that problem, they were looking around for another flag intended for use by troops. This was a flag that didn't fly on a flagpole at the Capitol or at any of the forts of the Confederacy, but it was carried into battle by men who were fighting. And so it's known as the Confederate battle flag. After the war, the veterans that had fought in the war needed an emblem to use to represent them. And they took that basic design and they changed it around a little bit. They stretched it out to look more like the flags they were used to. And so they came up with this particular version. And this is what we usually think of as the Confederate flag. It was never carried into battle, but the veterans used this flag, and that was during a period when there were problems with segregation and Jim Crow, so it became associated with many of those things, as well as this was the flag that was used by the KKK when they came into existence. And for many people, this flag has come to be associated with racism. So we really need to remember and understand that a flag has meaning for the individual, and the same emblem may be a feared emblem of racism for one individual, but for others it represents the proud heritage of their land. This flag was a flag that was carried into battle by men who suffered and died, just as men on the Union side suffered and died. The Civil War was a terrible conflict, and unbelievable carnage came from that war. Yet, because of that war, we were reborn as a nation of a union. Because of the Civil War, we say, we are all Americans. The main flag that we honor and revere in our country, of course, is the Stars and Stripes. And one of the things I think that we really need to remember is that the Stars and Stripes stands for certain freedoms, that because we are Americans and because we live in a free land, we can decide what flag we want to display. And we are the ones who say what that flag means to us.